object? B object. But where is the class B? Is it class B is there within the same method or other methods? Same method. But if you want to use the class in more than one method, then you write this class inside what? A class. So that this class B can used by how many methods? Any number of methods. But I want the implementation is used by only how many methods? One method, but should not used by any other method. Then you declare that class inside a method. So I create object of a class and call which method here? M1 method. I created object of a class and called which method? M1 method. So when you call M1 method and within M1 method, you created object of which class? B class. And then called which method here? M2 method. But without creating object, you cannot do it, right? Okay. So because this method is object level method, an object level method required to create what? Object. So until unless you don't create object, okay, until unless you don't create object, you cannot use it, right? Okay. Yes. So once you run this, now you can see M1 of A class and M2 of which class? B class. So this is how you write a class inside a class. So within a class, you can write a class as a member class, or you can write a class as which class? Local class. It means Python provides a flexibility of writing a class anywhere within the class. Okay, now you can write inside a constructor, you can write inside a method, you can write inside what? Class. Now that depends on your application requirement. You write a class inside a. Now these are very much useful if you are working with web development like Django, and one more is what? Flask. You develop a model. Suppose if you are working with the Django, right? You develop one model. Suppose we'll say student model like this. So student model inherits, okay, something like this model. And you define student is having some fields, like there is a roll number, there is a name, and there is what? Course. And within this, you'll try to define the meta information. So there is a class called meta. So where you define the table name, okay, table name is a student like this. It means this is called as which class here? Outer class. And this is called as which class? Inner class. But is it this class is a member class or not? Yes, it is a member class. And this class is a member of which class here? Student model. So inside this class, you are providing which information? Meta information. Means using this model, I want to create one table with a name called which one? Student, like that. And I want to create a table with a student contain how many fields? 3 fields, like that. Okay. So this kind of things, this kind of the situations where you try to use a class inside what? Class. So writing a class inside a class is called as a inner class. Okay, now, right. So next we'll go for another chapter which is called as exceptions. The same thing you call it as which one? Error handling. Exceptions are error handling. Exceptions. Exception handling or error handling. Exception handling or what is that? Error handling. So there is an exception handling or error handling. So here in application development, so this is one of the important concept. Exception handling or what? Error handling. So Python is a robust Python is a robust programming language. Robust means it is having a strict checking during compile time as well as what runtime. It is having, it will provide strict checking during error checking during compile time, during compile time as well as what runtime. During compile time and what is that runtime. It provides a strict error checking during compile time and runtime. So in application development, in application development, in application, in application development, we come across, we come across, different types of, we come across different types of what errors. In application development or in project development, in application development or in project development, you come across different types of errors. You come across different types of errors. Come across different types of errors. So the first one is called as, you come across which errors here is syntax errors. First one is which errors here? Syntax errors, which is called as, I can say this as which errors? Compile time errors, syntax errors, compile time errors. Second one is a logical errors, compile time errors, logical errors. And third one is a what errors here? Runtime errors. In application development, you come across how many types of errors? Three types. One is a compile time errors, second one is logical errors, and third one is what? Runtime errors. Syntax, compile time errors, logical errors, and runtime errors. So what is this compile time errors? Compile time error. An error which occur during compiling of program. Compilation of program or compiling of program are called compile time errors. I can say compile time errors. The same errors are called syntax errors. All syntax errors are called which errors? Compile time errors. All syntax errors are called which errors? Compile time errors. And errors which occur during compilation of program. Whatever errors you'll get during the compilation of program, that errors, you are saying it as which errors here? Compile time errors. All syntax errors are called which errors here? Compile time errors. All syntax errors are called which errors here? Compile time errors. All syntax errors, right? All syntax errors are compile time errors. So what will happen if there is a syntax error? If there is a syntax error, if there is syntax error, what will happen? Program execution is not done. Program execution is not happened or not done. See here. For example, I'm writing one program. This is one program and I just given the space and I'm saying print hello. Print hello and I save this program. Okay, I save this program. So what will happen if I run this program? Immediately it is given which error? Syntax error. And what is that syntax error here? Unexpected init. So there is a syntax error. What is that syntax error? Unexpected indent means unnecessarily you are given what here space. So that you call it as unexpected indent. That is called as which error? Syntax error. Syntax errors. If your program is having syntax error, unless you don't until you don't rectify this error, your program execution is done or not done? Not done. So who will rectify these errors? Programmer. Okay. Who will rectify these errors? These errors are rectified by the programmer. These errors rectified by whom? Programmer, right? So all syntax errors are rectified by whom? Programmer. Who rectify these errors is, these errors are rectified by the programmer. Until unless you don't rectify, your program execution is not done. Until unless you don't rectify these errors. Okay. If these errors are not rectified, if these errors are not rectified, if these errors are not rectified, program execution is not done. Program execution is not done, and these errors are rectified by the programmer. So that you can call it as which errors? Compile time errors. Means in order to execute the program, your program should not have any syntax errors. In order to in order to execute program, in order to execute program, the program should not have okay, should not have any which errors? Syntax errors. If there is a syntax error in your program execution is not done. So here, print hello, print by, this is okay. But if I'm saying 10 is greater than 20, but after that I have not written any statement. Okay, if I run this, so it is given error or not? Yes. But is it these statements are executed or not executed? Not executed. Why is it your program is executed or not executed? Not executed because your program is having which error? Syntax error. So if there is a syntax errors, your program is not executed. So to avoid that, you have to rectify all the syntax errors. You have to rectify all the syntax errors. Okay. So you come across syntax errors, and these errors are rectified by the programmer. Okay. The syntax errors are rectified by whom? Programmer. So you rectify it in order to run the program. So that is called as which errors here? Compile time errors. So second is you come across one more type of error. And what is that error here? Logical error. So there is one more error is there. What is that error? Logical error. Logical error. Syntax error is, compile time error is there. And one more error is there. What is that error? Logical error. Logic. Logic is nothing but some rules and what is that? Regulation. Some business rules that you can call it as which one? Logical error. Okay, logical error. If there is a logical error, if there is a logical error within program, if there is a logical error within what? Program. So program, okay, program display a written what is that? A wrong result. If there is a logical error within the program, your program will display which result? Wrong result. Wrong result will happen. If your program is having a logical error, you'll get which result here? Wrong result. You'll get the wrong result if there is a logical error within the program. If there is a logical error within the program, it will give what here? Wrong result. What is the meaning of this? Suppose adding two numbers. In the place of add, if you do subtract, is it that is which error? Logical error. Okay. Suppose program is for addition, but you write a logic for which one? Subtraction. Then that gives which error? Logical error. Logical error. Suppose, assume that I want to write a, suppose, I want to write a program to find, max of what? Two numbers. Program to find max of two numbers, right? I want to write a program to find the max of two numbers. I'll try to input first number. So input what? Enter what is that first number? Okay. Then number two, integer of input. Input which one here? Second number. Input first number and input second number. If number one greater than number two, I try to display number two. Number two is, I'm saying here, number two is what here? Max. Okay, else I'm saying print. Which one I'm saying? Number one is what here? Max. But actually I have to display first what? If number one is greater than number two, I should display which number is a maximum? Number one. I should display which one? Number one. But in the place of number one, I displayed what here? Number two. This is which error? This is which error? Logical error. Means you have written some mistake in what? Program. I said 10 and 5. Which one is a maximum? 10 is a maximum. But which one is displayed? 5 is maximum. So why it is displaying 5 is a maximum? Because there is an error in what? Logic. There is an error in what here? Logic. Getting on? There is an error in logic. What is the mistake you have done? In the place of displaying number one, you displayed which one? Number two. So this is a programming mistake or not? Yes. So these errors, you call it as which one here? Logical errors. Logical. If there is a error in business logic, if there is an error in business logic or logic, then you'll get a wrong result. So I try to enter, but in this case, it displayed which one is max? 5 is max. Displayed 5 is a max. So that error, you call it as which one? Logical error. Then who will rectify this error? Programmer. So logical errors are rectified by whom? Programmer only. Who rectify the logical errors? Programmer, to get the proper result. Rectified by the programmer to get the proper result. To get the proper result. If these errors are not rectified by the programmer, if these errors are not rectified by the programmer, okay, so it will display what? It will display wrong result, or what is that? Output. So you have to do that. Okay, now then next is one more type of error you come across. What is that? Runtime errors. So there is one more error called which one? Runtime errors. Runtime errors are there. The errors which occur during, during the execution of, the errors which occurs during the execution of program is called which errors here? Runtime errors. Whatever errors you will get during the execution of program, your program compilation is successful, but there is no error in what? Logic, but you will get some errors. There is no syntax errors and there is no logical errors. but you may get you may get an error during what? Runtime. So that kind of errors you call it as which one here? Runtime errors. The errors which occurs during the execution of program is called runtime error. But why this runtime error is occurred? This runtime errors occurs because of what here? Wrong input. Wrong input given by which one? End user. Why this errors occurred? Because of wrong input given by what? End user. Now this runtime errors occur because of wrong input given by what? End user. Or the input given by end user doesn't satisfy the condition given within the program. So in that case, you'll get which error here? Runtime error. These errors occurs because of errors which occur during, okay, errors which occur during the execution of program is called runtime errors, and these runtime errors occur because of wrong input given by end user. For example, suppose I am writing a program to divide two numbers. I'm writing a program to divide what here? Two numbers. I'm writing a program to divide two numbers. Okay. What will I do? I'll input number one. So where I'm saying integer of input, enter what here? First number. So number two equal to integer of input, and I'm saying enter which number? Second number. You're trying to input how many numbers here? Two numbers. So the first one is number one and second one is what? Number two. After giving two numbers, I'm trying to perform an operation called which one? Division. So where I'm saying number three equal to number one divided by what here? Number two. After that, I'm displaying the number one, number two, and number three. Okay, I try to use a separator as a backslash n. So this is a program for dividing two numbers. Okay, it's a simple program for dividing what here? Two numbers, where you input the number one, you input the number two, and do which operation here? Division operation. Okay. Now once you run this, enter first number. So I said first number is 4. Okay, first number is 4. So what is the value of n1? The value of n1 is so what is the value of n1? The value of n1 is given. Number 1 is 4. And then after that, I try to input number 2. What is number 2 I've given? 2. The value of number 1 is 4 and the value of number 2 is what? 2. Then you're saying number 3 equal to number 1 divided by what? Number 2, which is nothing but 4 divided by 2. 4 divided by 2, what is the result I'll get? 2.0. So what will happen? I'll get the result as a 2.0. So 4, 2 and the result of 4 by 2 is what? 2.0. Then I try to execute again. This time I try to enter 9, 3 or 9, 9, 4, and what is the result is given? 2.25. So in this both the cases, is it execution of your program is successful or not? Yes. In both the cases, execution of your program is what? Successful. In both the cases, execution of your program is what? Successful. Okay, both the programs are executed successful. Okay, both the times it is executed what? Successful. Okay, assume that I try to run this program again. I try to enter the first value as a 3, but second value I've given which one? 0. So what will happen? The value of number 1. What is the value of number 1? 3. What is the value of second number? 0. And when you're trying to divide a number with 0, immediately it gives what? Error. Because Python cannot divide a number with what? 0. Python cannot divide a number with 0. Immediately it is given which error? 0 division error. But first time when you say 9 and 4, is it given any error? No. When I give some 4 and 2, is it given any error? No. When I give 9 and 4, is it given any error? No. But when I give 3 and 0, immediately it is given what? Error. Why this error is occurred? Because of correct input or wrong input? Wrong input. Because Python cannot divide a number with what? 0. For example, if you take notepad is a notepad, the person who develop a notepad, okay, suppose I'll say file open. What will happen if I give wrong file name? What will happen if I give wrong file name? If I give wrong file name, will it open or give the error message? Give the error message saying that file not found. A file not found. Check the file name and try what? Again, in the same way, here also I've given wrong input. What is the input I've given? 0. But when I give the input 0, I should not terminate my program. If I give the input 0, it should not terminate my program. But rather than terminating the program, my program should handle what? This error, saying that please enter the value which is greater than 0. But don't enter the value which one? 0. Getting on. So why this error is occurred? This error is occurred because of which one? A wrong input. This error is occurred because of wrong input is given by whom? End user. The input which is given by the end user doesn't satisfy the condition given inside what? Program. But when there is a runtime error, is it your program execution is continued or terminated? Terminated. When there is a runtime error, is it your program execution is continued or terminated? Terminated. To avoid this abnormal termination of program, you have to use what? Error handlers. Now, what is the exception is? Exception is nothing but a runtime error. Exception. What is exception? What is exception is? Exception is a runtime error only. Exception is a runtime. Exception is what here? Runtime error. What is exception? Exception is a runtime error. Okay. When there is an exception within program, exception is a runtime error. So when there is an exception, when there is an exception within, when there is an exception or a runtime error within what? Program, what will happen? Program execution is okay. Program execution is what? Terminated. Program execution. When there is a when there is an exception or runtime error within program execution is what? Terminate. To avoid abnormal termination of termination of program, we need to handle what? These errors. And Python handle these errors using what? Exception what? Handling concept. Okay. Just try to understand what is exception is. Exception is nothing but which error? Runtime error. Exception is a runtime error. So when there is an exception or runtime error within program execution is what? Terminated. To avoid this abnormal termination of program, we need to handle these errors. And Python handle these errors using what? Exception handling mechanism or exception handling what? Concept. So what is the need of? You can say what is the need of exception handling or error handling. So there are different reasons are there. First reason is to avoid abnormal termination of what program. And second one is to convert predefined error messages, to convert predefined error messages to what? User defined error messages. To convert predefined error messages to what? User defined error messages. To avoid abnormal termination of program, to convert predefined error messages to what? User defined error messages. And to separate business logic and what? Error logic. So what is the need? What is the need of exception handling or error handling? What is the use of exception handling or error handling? Yes, disturb the normal flow of the program. Yes. To avoid abnormal termination of program. Yes, when there is an error, your program execution is terminated. I say no. What is the need of exception handling is to avoid abnormal termination of program, to convert predefined error messages to what? User defined error messages, to separate the business logic and what? Error logic. To separate the business logic and error logic, you need to write what? Exception handling. Suppose here there is an error message. Can you able to handle? Is it end user can understand what is this error is? Suppose you develop project and your project is used by somebody else. You develop a project, but your project is used by what? Somebody else. Somebody else means the person who doesn't know anything about what? Computers. His job is just to input the data and getting what? Result. But while giving input of the data, he may do some mistakes. If there is a mistake, what will happen? Your program execution is what? Terminated. And it will give one big error. But is it that person can understand what is exactly this error is? No. So we have to convert these technical error messages. You have to convert these technical error messages into what? User-friendly error messages. This technical error messages you have to convert into what? User-friendly error messages. And how can you convert these technical error messages into what? User-defined error messages by using which one? Exception handling or what? Error handling. Getting on. Suppose if I enter wrong file name, suppose in this case, if I enter wrong file name, is it notepad is closed? If I enter wrong file name, is it notepad is closed or is it notepad is handled? Notepad is handled. Whenever you give the wrong result, whenever you give the wrong input, is it that input is verified, and is it that input is valid or invalid? If it is invalid, that is handled by which one? Notepad. But is it notepad is terminated or continued? Continued. After displaying this message, file not found, check the name and try again. It said that file is not there. Okay, check the file name and what? Try again. In the same way, here also when there is an error, is it asking like that anything? You cannot divide a number with 0. Please try again. No. Why? Because are you handle the error or not handle? Not handle. When you have not handled, then what will happen? Your program execution is what? Terminated. It is not continued. It is what? Terminated. Even though if I write any other statements, after this statement, is it that statement is executed or not executed? Not executed. If I'm saying continue, I just write here continue, right? And what will happen if I run this? I'll try to enter the first number, which is 5 and 2. No problem. 5, 2, 2.5 and continue the rest of the statements. Okay, suppose I enter some 5 and 0. Then what happened? Is it continue? Continue statement is executed or not executed? Not executed. It means your program execution is continued or terminated? Terminated. Then how can I avoid this abnormal termination of the program? Then I have to handle these errors or not? Yes, I have to handle these errors. These errors are called which errors? Runtime errors. And these runtime errors also called what? Exceptions. This runtime errors also called what? Exceptions. Okay. Yes. So to handle these errors, Python provides some keywords, right? So the following keywords are used in handling exceptions in Python. So the first one is the following keywords are used in handling exceptions in Python. The first one is a try, and second one is except, and third one is finally, fourth one is what here? Raise. So how many keywords you are using here? 4 keywords. Try, except, and one more is what? Raise. Okay, try, except, finally, and what? Raise. So every exception or error is one type. Every exception or error is one type. Type means data or type. See here. In this case, it is raise which type of error? Zero division. What is zero division error here? Type. Type means it is a class. What is it? What are the types in Python? Are nothing but classes only. So every exception or error is one type or class. So creating an object of okay, exception type, creating object of exception type or error type, creating object of exception type or error type, creating an object of exception type or what? Error type, and giving to which one? Python virtual machine is called which one? Rising error. So what is the meaning of rising an error? Creating an object of which type? Exception type. Creating an object of exception type or error type and giving to PVM is called as which one? Rising error or generating okay, or what? Generating error. So generally who generates an error? So the errors are generated or raised by, okay, raised by which one here? Functions. It is generated by which one? Methods. So these are generated by functions or what? Methods. Okay, suppose in this case, if you see this example, in this example, who generating the exception? Main. Who's generating exception here? Main. I said no. By default, for every executable program, Python will create one name or not? Yes. What is the name of the module? Main. So if there is an error within main module, who raises the exception? Main module raises the exception. Getting on not? Okay. So suppose assume that in this example, if I enter first number, it is asking enter first number. In the place of number, if I give ABC, so what is the input given to the integer function? What is the input is given to the integer function? ABC. Is it ABC? Now integer function, is it able to convert ABC to integer? No. Then who will raise the exception in this case? Integer function. An integer function will raise an exception. What is that exception here? Value error. Who is given this error? Integer function is given error. Because you are given input to which function here? Integer function. An integer function verifies, is it input given by the input function is valid or not? If it is valid, it converts and return it. If it is invalid, immediately it raises which one? Error. What is that error it is raised? Value error. But are you handle the error? No. Because not handle the error, as it a program execution is what? Terminated. To avoid this, you have to write exception handler or error handler. So creating an object of exception type or error type and giving to Python virtual machine is called raising error or generating error. So the errors are generated or raised by functions or what is that? Methods. Methods. Functions are what? Methods. So these error types are exception types. These error types are exception types are two. One is predefined exception types, predefined exception types, and one more is what? User defined exception types. Okay, predefined exception types are what? Error types. And second one is user defined exception types are what? Error types. So it means these classes are predefined classes or it can be what? User defined classes. Why? Because every exception is one class or not? Yes. Every exception is one type. Types are nothing but what here? Classes. Every exception is one class. Now suppose if we take what is the name of the class? Value error. Now integer function is generated which error object? Value error object. And main is generated which error object? Zero division error object. Integer is generated which error object? Value error. And main is generated which object here? Zero division error. This is generated value error and this is generated which one? Zero division error. This is generated value error and this is generated which error? Zero division error. Okay. So value error and more is zero division error. But these error types are predefined or user defined? Predefined. Predefined exception types. Okay, predefined exception types. Predefined exception type or error types, okay, are used by Python library functions. Python library functions or Python. So whatever library functions are there, for example, integer function is there. Integer function rises which error? Value error. List function is there. List function rises which error? Type error. Getting on not? Okay, when you're dividing it, you'll get which error? Zero division error. All these error types are used by whom? Python and Python library. Python and what is that? Python library. You are trying to open the file and open function is used to open the file. If the file is not there, who will raise the error? Open function. Which type of error it will raise? File not found error. Getting on not? In the same way, sometimes you write some logic. For example, you develop one function called login function, and to the login function, I enter username and password. I give the username and password, and that login function verifies is it that username password is exist within the database or not. If it is exist, I'll say welcome. If it is not exist, the login generate what? Error. The login function will generate the error. Which error? Is it that error is predefined or user defined? User defined, because that logic is predefined logic or user defined? User defined. Is it that login function is predefined or user defined? User defined. Getting on not? Okay. So predefined exception types or error types are used by Python library functions or what? Python. User defined exceptions are built by the programmer. That we'll talk about. Suppose example for predefined exception types is, okay, just now you have seen zero division. What is that? Zero division error. Zero division error. What is it error? Index error. What is it error? Key error. What is it another error? Value error. Value error. What is it another error? Type error. Okay, there is an error like file not found. File not found error. Okay, OS error. All these are which errors? Predefined errors. Name error. Yes, name error. And all these are user defined error types or predefined error types. Predefined error types, and these error types or these errors are generated by the Python library functions. These errors are generated by which functions? Python library functions. But to handle these errors, okay, you are using some keywords. What are the keywords you are using? Try, except, finally, and one more is what? Rise. So first we'll see first keyword. What is the first keyword you have? Try. So first keyword is which one here? Try. So try keyword or try block. You're saying try keyword or try block. Okay, this block is having this block is having statements which has to be monitored for. This block is having statements. This block is having the statements this block is having the statements which has to be monitored for. This block is having the statements which has to be monitored for. This block is having the statements which has to be monitored for. Which one here? Exception handling. Exception handling, or what is that? Error handling. This block is having the statements which has to be monitored for exception handling or error handling. It means whatever statements which raises an error, the statements which raises an error, the statements which generate what here? Errors. The statements which generate error is included within block. So which statement you are including inside this try block? Whichever statements generate an error, the statement which generates an error so that statement you are generate an error that you documentation. Suppose you read the documentation of any functions, like for example list is there. Okay, if you see the list, so you may create a list. Okay, you may create a list. Okay, list is there, but this list might raise what here? Error. But what kind of errors it raises? Even it is given while reading the documentation of it. Okay, while reading the documentation of it, you try to find out what kind of errors it come across. What kind of errors it come across, right? For example, there is a function. What is the name of the function here? Integer function. Integer function. We'll just see. Integer function. See, it gives an errors. Integer, float, and complex is there. So integer, float, and complex. You can see what is the error? A value error is raised. Which error is raised here? Value error is raised when the limit exceed while converting a string x to what is that? Integer, or when converting an integer into a string would be exceed the limit. So in that case, into string inputs or string representation can be limit, help avoid or service attacks. A value error is raised. When the value error is raised, when it exceeds the length, or if the type is not proper, the type is correct but value is not correct, then you'll get which error? Value error. It means when you read the documentation, you come across now which statement or which function raises which type of error. So this block is having statement which have to be monitored, which has to be monitored for which one? Exception handling or error handling. The statement which generates an error included within this block. And what is the syntax of this is, you are writing a try, you are writing like this. So there is a try block, and inside the try block you are including some statements. There is a statement one. So there is a statement one and there is a statement two. You may include either one statement or more than one statement. But which statements you include? Only the statements which generate what? Error. Only the statements which generate what? Error. If there is an error inside a try block, it is handled by another block. And what is it? Another block, it handles the error? Except block. If there is an error inside which block? Try block. That error is handled by which block here? Except block. So except is a keyword, right? Except is a keyword. Except is a keyword, right? So except block is an error handling block. So error handling block. This is called error handling block. If there is an error, if there is an error inside which block? Try block. If there is an error inside which block? Try block. It is handled by which block? Except block. It is handled by which block here? Except block. So try block followed by one or more which blocks here? Except blocks. Try block followed by one or more except blocks. So if there is an error inside a try block, that error is handled by which block? Except block, right? And the block try block followed by one or more than or one or more except blocks. Why? Because if there is a multiple errors within try block, those multiple errors are handled by writing multiple except blocks. If you don't handle the errors, your program execution is what? Terminated. To avoid this abnormal termination of program, definitely you have to handle what? Errors. Because whatever project you are developing, that project is not used by you, right? Okay, that project is used by somebody else who doesn't know anything about what? Computers. So his job is just giving input. Suppose you go to ATM application is developed by somebody else. ATM application is developed by somebody else and we are using it. So what will happen if I give wrong PIN number? Is it ATM will shut down? No. If you give wrong PIN number, is it ATM will shut down or display the message? Display the message saying that invalid PIN. Invalid PIN. If you don't enter the amount and if you say withdraw, will it ATM will shut down? No. It just handle it. It just handle it by saying that. It just handle it by just saying that. It just handle it saying that please enter the amount. Okay. Yes. ఏం చేస్తున్నావు సాయి చరణ్? నువ్వేం చేస్తున్నావు బాస్? సాయి చరణ్ నువ్వేం చేస్తున్నావు? అంటే నువ్వు ఏం చేస్తున్నావు? నువ్వు యాక్చువల్గా నేను అనేది నువ్వేం చేస్తున్నావు సాయి చరణ్? నువ్వేం చేస్తున్నావు? నువ్వు ఇంటలో ఇంటే ఏం చేస్తున్నావు? నన్ను ఎందుకు అడుగుతావు? ఏం చేస్తావు మరి? నిన్నేం చేయాలి? బ్లాక్ చేయాలా? రిమూవ్ చేయాలన్నా? నేను రిమూవ్ చేసిన అనుకో మళ్ళీ లాగిన్ కావు నువ్వు, ఇక మళ్ళీ క్లాస్ వెళ్ళి అట్లా చేస్తావు మరి. చేయను అట్లా. జస్ట్ టైపింగ్ ఇక్కడ ఎందుకు చేస్తావు అమ్మా సాయి చరణ్? వై యూ టైప్ ఇన్ ది చార్ట్ విండో? వై యూ టైపింగ్ ఇన్ చార్ట్ విండో? నీ మొబైల్కి నీ చార్ట్కి సంబంధం ఉందా లేదా? నువ్వు మొబైల్లో చార్ట్ చేస్తున్నా అని తెలుసు నాకు. నువ్వు మొబైల్లో చార్ట్ చేస్తున్నా తెలుసు. బై మిస్టేక్ దీంట్లో వచ్చేసింది అది. Mobile chat is chatting in mobile. In WhatsApp is chatting or somewhere. Huh? And by mistakenly idhar aa gaya. Is doing multiple. Huh? ఏం చేస్తున్నావు అని నన్ను అడుగుతుండు. ఏం చేస్తున్నా అని ఎవరిని అడిగిండు నాకు తెలియదు. ఏం చేస్తున్నావు అని అడుగుతున్నాడు. ఇప్పుడు నేను రిమూవ్ చేసిన అనుకో, నువ్వేం చేయలేవు. ఓకేనా? ఏం చేస్తున్నావు లేదు, ఏం లేదు. మళ్ళీ లాగిన్ కాలేవు. ఓకేనా? సో ఒక చూసుకోవాలమ్మా. ఓకే, యూ హ్యావ్ టు సీ వేర్ యు ఆర్ టైపింగ్ ఎ మెసేజ్. ఇస్ ఇట్ దట్ మెసేజ్ యు ఆర్ సెండింగ్ టు యువర్ ఫ్రెండ్, యువర్ గర్ల్ ఫ్రెండ్, ఎవరికో చూసుకోవాలి. అదంతా చూసుకొని చేసుకోవాలి. నేనైతే కాదు కదా, నేను ఏం చేస్తున్నా ఏం చేస్తలేను, చదువు చెప్తున్నా. ఓకేనా? So this is a syntax of handling the errors here. So there is a syntax here. This is a syntax. How you are writing it first? You are writing which block? Try block. So this is a try block, right? And you are writing a try block and including some statements here. So there is a statement 1. So you may include either one statement or more than one statement. So this is a try block, and inside the try block, written how many statements? 2 statements, and followed by which block? Except the block. An except block followed by what you are writing here? Error type. Which type of error you want to handle it? You are writing what here? Error type, and include some statements. And what is the statement you included here? Statement 3. Okay, so try block, you may write it either with one except block or more than one except block. You can say you have a multiple syntaxes of this. Okay. So you are writing like this. So there is a try block and include some statements. Okay, statement 1 and statement 2, and followed by except block and error type. And then there is a statement 3. And again I write except block and error type. What happened here? So there is a statement 1 and statement 2 followed by except block. And again there is error type. And you are including one more statement. And there is a statement 3 and except block and error type. And there is a statement 4. So syntax 1 is except block, try block with what? One except block. And syntax 2 is for try block with multiple except blocks. So you can write a try block with one except block. You can write a try block with multiple except blocks. Okay. You can write a try block with one except block. So one try block and one except block, and try block with what here? Multiple except blocks. So you have one except block or multiple except blocks. Just to see it. So what I'm doing is program for dividing two numbers. And here I'm writing this statement inside which block? Try block. So which statements you'll write inside a try block? Which statements you'll write inside a try block? The statements will generate error. The statements which generate error, that statements you'll write inside which block? Try block. Whatever statements which generates an error, that statements you write inside what? Try block. You're saying number 3 equal to number 1 divided by what? Number 2. After that, you are printing the value of number 1, number 2, and one more is what? Number 3. So this try block followed by which block here? Except the block. Now tell me this statement generates which error? Zero division error. This except block handle which error now? Zero division error. So whenever there is a zero division error within the try block, that zero division error is handled by which block? Except block. Of which type? Zero division error. Except block with a zero division error will handle which error only? Zero division. If any other error is there, is it this except block handle? No. Because this except block is bind with which type of error? Zero division error. So this is able to handle which type of error? Zero division only. And here you write user defined error message. Converting predefined error message into what? User defined. And here I'll write it. Cannot divide number with what? 0. Is it this is predefined message or user defined? User defined. So exception handling, you are using it to convert predefined error messages. Predefined error messages into user defined. 5 and 2. Is it any error in try block? No. On successful execution of try block, it will not execute which one? Except the block. On successful execution of try block, it will not execute which block? Except the block. Now 5 divided by 2, and what is the result here? 2.5. 5 divided by 2 is what here? 2.5, right? Is it execution of try block is successful or not? Yes. On successful execution of try block, it will not execute which block? Except the block. I try to execute again. Enter first number. The first number is 6 and second number is 3. So number 1, what is the value of number 1? 6. What is the value of number 2? 3. Control is moved inside which block? Try block. 6 divided by 3 is what? 2.0. Is it execution of try block is successful or not? Yes. Suppose this time I enter the value of number 1 is a 3, but the value of number 2 is what? 0. What is the value of number 1? 3. What is the value of number 2 here? 0. After that, control is moved inside which block? Try block. Within the try block, you are trying to do which operation? Division. 3 divided by 0. Is it Python is able to divide a number with 0? No. Then immediately tries this which error? Zero division error. Immediately tries this which error? Zero division error. Okay. Zero division error and given to which one? PVM. Rising error is nothing but creating what? Exception object or error object and giving to what? Python virtual machine. What Python virtual machine look for? Error handler. Python virtual machine look for what? Error handler. Which one is called as error handler? Except. It means Python virtual machine look for except block of which type? Zero division error. Is it available or not available? Available. Then is it this except block handle that error or not? Yes. And what is the message I'll get? Cannot divide number with 0. If it is not handle, suppose there is no except block with zero division error. If there is no except block with which error? Zero division error. then what will happen? If there is no except block with a zero division error, what will happen? So your Python virtual machine will terminate the execution of program or continue? Terminate. But is it handled or not handled? Handle. So what is the message here? Cannot divide a number with what here? Zero. Cannot divide a number with zero because this error is handled or not handled? Handled. If it is not handled, your program execution is terminated. Now here, if I write any other statements, is it the statements are executed or not executed? Executed because is it that error is handled or not handled? Handled. Rest of the statements are executed. Okay. Now as a Python developer, you should know which error is occurred when. But this is a try block with how many except blocks? Only one except block. But you can write a try block with what? Multiple. You can write a try block with one except block, but you can write a try block with what? Multiple except blocks. So you should know which error is occurred when. Okay, just to see here. Which error is occurred when? So when you'll get zero division error, tell me here, when will you get zero division error? You'll get zero division error, right? When it will display raised when the second argument of division or modulo operation is what? Zero. So you should know because sometimes they may ask you, right? Like which error is occurred when? When you'll get zero division error, this is predefined, right? Then when will you get the value error? So you also get a value error, right? So when will you get a value error? When will you get a value error? When will you get a value error? So value error is also, yeah, this keywords only to handle runtime errors. These keywords are only to handle runtime errors. Okay, right? Yes. So this is a value error. And there is one more type of error which is called as what is that error here? Type error. So when will you get the type error, exception type error? Okay, when you'll get the type error, rise when an operation. So we'll try to handle all these errors with some examples. We'll see. So there is a type error, exception, exception. It followed by type error here, and there is a there is a index error. So when will you get an index error? Subscript is out of range. Exception, index error, exception, index error. So there is an index error. So raised when a sequence subscript is out of range. Okay. So there is a key error. So when will you get the key error? If the key is not there, right? Exception key error. So when a mapping, exception key error raised when a mapping key is not found in the set of existing keys. That is when you're writing it. Okay. Yes. You can use it. You can use inside methods. No problem. You can use inside the methods. No problem. Defined types, right? Indentation error. Yes. Okay. Yes. So for example, if you see the previous example, now in this example, we are able to handle only one error. Which error we handle here? Zero division. But suppose here, I try to enter first number. The first number is 4, but second number I have given ABC. So this 4 is given to the integer function. Now integer converted this 4 into what? Int. But what will happen if I give the value ABC to the integer? Is it integer function convert ABC to integer? No. Then immediately it rises which error? Value error. But is it this error is handled or not handled? Not handled. Is it that this error is handled or not handled? Not handled. Then what should I do? I need to write these two statements also inside which block? Try block. I need to write these two statements also inside which one? Try block. Now this is a try block with multiple. I say a try block with what? Multiple except blocks. Because this try block raises how many types of errors here? Two types. One is an error belongs to which one? Division. One is an error belongs to what? Division. And there is one more error which belongs to what? Value. So except which error it is? Value error. So input value must be integer. I'm displaying a message. Input value must be what? Integer. So who is giving this value error? Who generating this value error? This value error is generated by which function? Integer function. If you are giving the wrong input to this integer function is generating which error? Value error. So immediately you'll get the message input value must be which type? Integer type. Now once you run this, enter the first number, which is 5 and 2. So is it any error raised by this try block? No, there is no error raised by the try block, because what is the first value input? 5. What is the value of number 1? 5. What is the value of number 2? 2. What is that? 5 by 2 is what? 2.5. On successful execution of try block, will it execute except block? No. On successful execution of try block, it doesn't execute except block. I try to enter 5 and 0. What is the value of number 1? 5. What is the value of number 2? 0. But can you divide a number with 0? No. Then immediately tries this which error? 0 division error. Is it any except block with a 0 division error? Yes. So is it this except block is handling 0 division error or not? Yes. So cannot divide a number with what? 0. And is it continued or terminated? Continued. Okay. So I try to execute again. This time I enter the first number is ABC. But is it ABC able to convert to integer? No. Then immediately integer function rises which error? Value error. Then Python virtual machine look for an except block of which type? Value error. Is it an except block with value error is there or not? Yes. Then what is the message I'll get? Input value must be what? Integer. So input value must be integer, and after that what is this? Continue. Ring or not? So you need to verify. It means you need to test your application by giving different inputs. Okay, it means you don't release the code just like that, right? You try to check by giving so many inputs. Whatever mistakes are there, all those mistakes has to be handled. If it is not handled, your program is having some bugs. So that bugs has to be deleted, right? Okay, you have to rectify it by handling which one? Errors. Now this is one error, and this is what here? Another error. Is it both the errors are handled or not? Yes. By writing how many except blocks here? Only 2 except blocks. So you have to identify the errors, and whatever statements which raises error, that statements you write inside which block? Try block. If there is an errors in try block, you handle that errors by writing which block? Except block. So here I write how many except block? 2 except block. First except block handle which error? 0 division. Second except block handle which error? Value. So but you can have multiple except blocks, but can handle multiple errors using one except block? Yes. So how to handle? Yes, how to handle multiple error types using one except block? How to handle multiple error types using one except block? How to handle multiple error types? How to handle multiple error types using one except block? How to handle multiple types of errors using one except block? So an except block which handle more than one error is called which block here? Generic except block. And it's called which one? Generic except block. It is an except block. It is an except block without any type. This except block doesn't have any type. Suppose if I'm writing an except block with a 0 division, if I'm writing an except block with a 0 division, then this will handle which error? 0 division. If I'm writing an except block with value error, handle which error? Value error. But if I'm writing except block without any error type, I just write only except block, I just write try block, and within this try block I include the statements. And after that I just write which block? Except block. Is it this except block with the type or without type? Without the type. This except block is not with the type, right? This except block is without type. So that except block you call it as what? Generic except block. But it is not recommended to handle all the types of errors using one except block, because yes, for every exception you display one error message. But if you handle all the errors using one except block, you have to give a common message. You have to give which one? Common message. Is it that is preferable or not preferable? Not preferable. The advantage of exception handling is again grouping and separating the errors. It means each error you handle it by using one and display the appropriate message, or convert that technical error message into what? User defined error message, right? So that you are doing it by using exception handling. But we'll see how to work with this generic except block, or how to handle multiple types of errors using one except block. But tomorrow we'll see it, right? So today we'll stop it here and tomorrow we'll continue this. Okay. Thank you.